China's manufacturing industry is feeling the pinch of the global slowdown as the HSBC China Manufacturing PMI highlighted an 8th successive month-on-month decline in June. Rob Dobson, senior economist at Markit, joins me on the phone now. Rob, firstly, there is a minor difference in figures between China's official data released on Sunday, which suggested a PMI of 50.2, and the HSBC market data released this morning, which depicted a level of 48.2. Can you briefly talk us through where and why that variation comes in?
There's a number of factors. Obviously, they're coming from two separate panels. We collect our data independently of the official version. Also, we use a slightly different seasonal adjustment method to them. We've been doing PMIs across the world now for nigh on 20 years. So we've got, the seasonal adjustment is dated down to a T, and sometimes the official series can have a bit of residual seasonality. But again, I think the overall picture both are painting are that the Chinese manufacturing sector is experiencing a slower patch in the middle of the year.
A slowdown in new orders and external demand have been cited as the key reasoning behind this drop in manufacturing PMI. Is this the sure sign investors have been waiting for, that the Asian markets will and are suffering as a result of the global slowdown?
That's definitely playing a role. China in particular has a big influence from its exports to developed markets such as the Eurozone. And what we're seeing is the Eurozone, the figures we had for the Eurozone were pretty dire, and that's showing that that key market for Chinese exporters is slowing. But also in recent months, we've seen this almost broaden out. We're seeing neighbouring countries to China, places like Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia. We've seen their manufacturing sectors experience weaker growth or even outright contraction. And also there's been signs recently that the North American market, whilst holding up well, our own flash data for the US, that showed that maybe there's a little bit of slowdown in the US manufacturing sector. So again, this is very much a global thing, but the Eurozone is the main drag on global trends at the moment.
The size of China's manufacturing workforce contracted for the 4th month in June also. This has connotations of its own for the health of China's economy. Is further monetary easing now warranted, do you think?
It's a very distinct and rising possibility. Really, in China, growth and employment are the two key things which the government will be looking at in order to maintain social stability and also wealth creation in China. Now, these figures suggest manufacturing output is declining, not as strong as it was earlier in the year, and that job losses are occurring. And we saw GDP figures of 8.1% growth in the first quarter. Now, people talk about a magic number of 8% growth, which the government needs to sustain. If this is the case, and if we see manufacturing easing, they could drop below that, in which case additional interest rate easing, reductions in reserve rate requirements for banks, and even things such as a step up in infrastructure investment and spending could all be options which the Chinese government takes to shelter itself against this broad slowdown we're seeing in the global economy as a whole.
We've now hit an 8th successive month-on-month decline. Do you anticipate this decline to continue? What are your forecasts?
What we're seeing is, when we look at what's going to happen going ahead, we tend to look at these more forward-looking indicators such as new business, orders coming in from the domestic market, orders coming in from the external markets. And as we've said, in both cases, domestic demand seems to be tapering off, and export conditions, particularly in those developed and particularly developed Western European economies, are coming down. Now, if that continues, we're going to see China obviously be hit by that global slowdown. Indeed, even where we saw signs of growth in the China numbers this month, a lot of what people were talking about was a sharp and strong building of inventories and also working through previously agreed contracts, which suggests that order inflow and order intakes are starting to decline. And if that continues, what we're going to see further slowdown in China.
Rob, thank you very much for your insight. Stay tuned to Dukascopy TV for all of the latest updates, analysis and exclusive interviews. For now though, goodbye.